Welcome to From the Heart. I am your host, Tina Thrussell, light dancer, co-founder of Best You Can Be and messenger of the Shin, the way of the heart. Before I introduce my guest, I invite you to take a look at the little crawler at the bottom of the screen that invites you to receive a complimentary subscription of Heart and Mind Matters. Neil and I produce this easing every other Tuesday morning. An inspirational article, a YouTube video, a quote of the week, an uplift to make your day and make your week a little brighter. You can receive that by entering your name and email at bestyoucanbe.ca. So my guest today is Susan Cullen. Susan and I have known each other for something like 3 years now, and we've done some pretty deep personal exploration together, and we're certainly on the same spiritual path. And I think that same spiritual path has brought that same question into both of our lives. Who am I and why am I here? I'm going to bring on board this beautiful heart-centered woman, Susan Cullen. Here we are. Oops, there you go. Hi, welcome to the show, Susan.
Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure to have you here for sure. As I said, we've known each other about 3 years. We work together with the Unity of Calgary Spiritual Community. We live these spiritual lives in parallel. And I think, like I say, we've both looked at that question many times in our life. Who am I and why am I here? And my guess is that those two questions are what led you to living so passionately yourself. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Although at the beginning, not on purpose, completely on accident.
So tell us a little bit about that. How do you end up in that place by accident?
Oh, well, I think I've always had this sense of something more in my life ever since I was a little kid. And, that something more isn't something that's generally honored in our society very much. And so, like many others, I just grew up doing what you're supposed to do and going to school and going to university and getting a job. And yet I still always had this sense of something more, something else, something that I was supposed to be doing, so to speak. So I was working as an economist for a research institute, and with this nagging sense of something more, I kept sort of praying to the universe, if you want to speak. I wouldn't call it that back then, but just sort of asking, for clarity. What is it I'm supposed to do? And then one day, as I was walking into work from the parking lot, I got an answer. And the answer was, are you ready to step into it?
Oh.
And I thought, well, I don't know. Tell me what it is first. And the answer was, sorry, doesn't work that way. You have to just be willing to step into it. And I thought, and then they said, this voice in my head, I'm having this conversation back and forth, and the voice said, are you ready to step into it? And I said, well, I don't know, because I don't know what it is. And that was pretty much the end of the voice for probably about 10 years. And in those 10 years, I guess I would say I was guided by ego. I guess I had to travel down that road. I went full out The Secret manifestation, writing out my affirmations, what job I was going to get. And I ended up manifesting it all and being absolutely miserable. I got the exact job that I asked for, except, what I realized is you can never be specific enough, because although the job was what I asked for, I ended up with a boss who was just not a good fit for me. Let's put it that way. Extremely challenging. And so finally, at the end of that period, I went, okay, I surrender. I'm just tell me I'm in, whatever. Like, clearly I can't figure this out. Or when I tried, I did it, but it left me feeling miserable and empty. So that was the on accident coming to be on purpose.
That's cool. I think a lot of us can relate to that, thinking that we know what we want and going for it in a big way, and still feeling that empty sense of, nope, something is not right here. And so what switched? What happened to have life start feeling right?
I think what happened, honestly, was I think, well, I mean, it's not something that I, planned or did, but it's how my life then unfolded. Once I really truly surrendered over to my soul, my spirit, whatever you want to call it, that's when things started to, I would say, flow better. Doesn't mean that everything was easy. I met all kinds of challenges, but each of the challenges, as I look back in hindsight, was exactly what I needed in that moment to bring me to a greater awareness of myself, to unlock skills and abilities and talents and gifts that I didn't know I had.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm just going to let you know, Sharon Karn just popped online and said, love this story, Susan.
It's true. God, it's true. I've decided that my soul keeps me on a very short leash now.
Lets you know when you're off track pretty quickly, yeah?
Yeah. And it's what's really changed for me is developing that skill of really deep listening to myself. Listening to that deep place within, that wise place.
And that is what living from the heart is, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
That listening to that inner voice, that place in your heart of going with what feels right, regardless of what your brain tells you. I mean, how often in those 10 years where you were trying to achieve what it is you thought you wanted, did you ever get little nudges and you kind of ignored them because your brain said, no, I got to do this because this is the plan, this is the goal, this is what I've laid out? Or did you really not even hear that voice in those 10 years?
I really didn't hear the voice in the 10 years. I really think it was my soul realizing that I had to experience this sort of crash and this failure, so to speak. I mean, it was successful in worldly terms, but for me, it was a failure because it just crushed my heart and my spirit. And so I think that, I hesitate to say this, but in the past, I've often been dragged kicking and screaming. So I'm getting better at surrendering sooner and going, okay. I know it's going to be hard. I know not that it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging. But I know that on the other side of every challenge is so much growth and opportunity and possibility and appreciation and honoring of myself.
And the reward of that challenge, of sticking through that, what is the reward? Why is it worth the challenge?
Well, the reward for me has been, as I said before, unlocking gifts and talents of, blossoming into more the fullness of who I am and who I've come here to be, would be the best way I could describe it.
What's the feeling behind that? I mean, how do you feel when you're in that? Yeah, this is what I have. I have these gifts. I have these talents. I'm really who I am.
Oh, well, in those moments of that appreciation, it's joy and bliss and happiness, and the world is all perfect. Yeah. till the next moment when something happens and my mind jumps in and
Yeah, we do know, all of us have that mind that jumps in and takes us off track really quickly. But you said it, it's the joy, right? And that's part of what this Living from the Heart show is about, is telling stories of our personal experiences, giving tips and ways that people can live with a greater sense of that joy and fulfillment of how do we really get there? Because so many people find that elusive. They're unhappy and they don't really know why, and they don't know how to step out of that unhappiness. So living from your
Yeah, I think what I've discovered for me and for my clients is it's that piece of really deep listening to ourselves of what is needed, and often that comes with the need for courage and bravery to step into whatever it is, because often what I'm being called into next is going to be an area that is outside my comfort zone. I mean, it has to be, otherwise it wouldn't be growing, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the only way we grow, is to step outside our comfort zone, to get a little uncomfortable, to feel challenged, uh, to live with the tough stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned that your clients, and I've had the great pleasure of getting to be one of your clients as well, and getting to experience your brilliance at helping people listen to themselves. How long have you been doing that work, and how does that tie into you feeling on purpose doing that work?
Well, I graduated with my life coaching certificate in 2010. So I guess it's been about 9 years now. And my coaching has sort of evolved over the years to be very much about helping people to connect to that deep place within. That seems to be where my gift lies, in that reconnection. And that's when I meet people who feel disconnected and lost, that seems to be exactly what the problem is. What they're disconnected from is themselves, right? What was the second part of the question you asked?
Yeah, what was the second part of the question? How long have you been doing? How has that brought you to feeling on purpose?
Oh, okay. Well, that was just an intuitive knowing. I worked, as I said, I was an economist working, and my husband and I were sort of like that, power couple, anyway, into the worldly things and the worldly definition of success. And what really changed also for me was when I had my son. So I got pregnant. It took me a long time to be able to get pregnant. That was another whole piece of surrender. And then and I was planning that, we would have the nanny suite in the basement, and, we would continue on, and that my life would just continue on, except I'd have this baby, which of course, looking back now is, naive and ridiculous. But anyway, that's where I was at the time. And when they first put him into my arms, I just thought, okay, plan B. What was I thinking? Like this, it just completely blew my heart open in a way that I had no idea and was not prepared for. So I just quit everything and was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, and promised myself that, this is what I really wanted to do, and to throw myself into this role of motherhood and volunteering and baking cookies and going to the school and, all of those things. And I knew that I would come back to myself, or I made a commitment to myself to come back to myself and sort of turn the focus back on me when my youngest started into school. So at that time, I was kind of looking around thinking, okay, what I want to do. Am I going to go back and be an economist? Things have changed so much in these 10 years.
Yeah.
What is it that is really calling to me? And then we had some friends over for dinner. And she's a lawyer, and I knew she was on sabbatical, but I didn't know what she was doing. And then she told me about that she was doing training to become a life coach. I thought, a life coach, what's that? Right? She told me. And as she told me, I could feel every cell in my body just begin to vibrate. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need to be doing. This is exactly the road I need to go down for whatever reason, whatever's going to come of it. I knew that that's the place that I had to go. And so the next day, without researching it, without doing anything, I just phoned the coaching school and said, when can I start? And they said, well, you have to put your application in. So I did all that, and then got into coaching school, went and graduated, and that's been my path ever since. And then a couple of years ago, so I've been doing individual coaching for that long, and then a couple of years ago, I really felt called to begin to gather women in circle. And so I, on the encouragement of a friend, applied for a scholarship from the Coaching Association, which I got to do additional training to have group coaching. And for the last 2 years, I guess it's been now, I've been facilitating women's circles, which has been just beautiful and awesome.
Yeah, well, certainly, again, just another thing that is parallel in our lives, right? I'm hosting women's nurture circles. You're hosting wisdom circles for women. We have these parallel paths of coming to the place of living from our heart, questioning, knowing from the time we're very young that there's something more, that there's something we're here to do, but not knowing what it is. Coming to the place of working with women, working with groups of women. Interesting that we have these parallel paths. And interesting how I want to come back to your that dinner evening when the woman told you about what a life coach is, and how that just set off everything in your being. They went, oh yeah, this is it. And that again comes back to that listening to yourself and trusting that the universe will send those little guideposts along the way, right? You were sent this woman who brought this up to you at just the right time for you to finally hear it. And we've all heard that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Absolutely.
And there it was for you, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately these things happen. There are these little nudges that come, and if we're in tune enough to listen to them, then it can make such an incredible difference in our lives.
Right. And like I said, there's two options. You can go willingly, or you can go kicking and screaming, because the universe sent me, if I wasn't going willingly in the past, the universe, whatever, I encountered phenomenal experiences that forced me to go in the direction that I needed to go. So.
Yeah. The messages are subtle, and if we don't listen, they come a little bigger and louder, right?
Yeah, that's certainly been my experience.
And it's been the experience of everyone I talk to. People just, messages come, and if we ignore them, they just keep coming, and they keep coming in a bigger and bigger way until you can't ignore them anymore.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that it didn't have to be something huge and traumatic. I mean, I've known people who've had to undergo like a huge accidents, a brain trauma. In my case, I broke my foot, had to stop doing everything I was doing to stop and listen to what was going on. Listen while we have the opportunity.
That's what I've learned to do.
Yeah. And it's fabulous that you're helping others learn to do that as well.
Yeah, that's what I feel really passionate about, for sure.
Yes. So if you had one or two gems that you wanted to share with our viewers in terms of how can they live from their heart, or what does it mean to live from their heart? How do they bring a greater sense of passion and fulfillment into their lives? I'm throwing you on the spot here. What one or two gems would you want to offer to our viewers?
I would say number one is to just really honor yourself and honor where you are and who you are. Although there's often this sense of something more, at the same time, I really truly believe that everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be. There's no such thing as, you're supposed to be somewhere else. David White, the poet, says, you create your path by walking it. And I just truly believe that it is your experience, that there's many different ways that you can find your way. There's not just one way. There's not one path that you have to just go and, try and figure out or find. But by following those internal impulses, which of course requires us to listen and pay attention. So I would really say honoring yourself where you are, and give yourself time for reflection. I know it's so hard these days, especially for women, to find that time of reflection and looking within and just sitting and being with yourself. Give yourself a break, give yourself a few minutes, practice self-compassion.
That's certainly one of the big lessons that I learned through you, and I'm grateful for that, is that piece about self-compassion. Yeah. If we can't be kind to ourselves, how can we really be kind to anyone else? Yeah. If we can't have love for ourselves, we can't truly have love for anyone else. We can think that we're giving the best of ourselves, and until we accept the best of ourselves for ourselves, we can't be the best for the world. And that is the big message personally for me behind the Shin Dao, living the way of the heart, is love yourself. Yeah. Be your own best friend. Be kind, be loving with yourself, so that can flow out into the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you. Sharon has just posted a comment that she just loves these gems. They're wonderful sharing for people. We're getting already, my gosh, 9:24. We're really getting close to our time. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
About
living passionately, living purposefully, living, just.
I guess the other thing that just pops into my mind as you ask that is to really have the courage to know the things that you don't want to know. Do you know what I mean? There's always those things in our lives that we're kind of just trying to distract ourselves from and pretend that we don't know, but there's a really deep place within us that knows that it's something that we need to look at, something that's very uncomfortable. Maybe it's an action that we need to take, which is something we don't want to consider, we don't want to look at. Just dig deep, connect with your heart, find that courage to at least be willing to look at whatever those issues are. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a big one. Having just done some of that deep shadow work together, I do know what I mean. There is lots of stuff that is sitting there that it's just easy to run away from, to keep busy, to not really look at. And I have to say that I lived most of my life doing that, just running away from the big questions, rather than taking the time, as you said, to gift ourselves with the time for introspection, to sit, to reflect, whether that means sitting in nature, whether that means sitting with a journal, with some quiet music. It doesn't matter how you do that. The point is, we have to do that. Mm-hmm. That quiet time, which, oh my gosh, I resisted so strongly all my life, is now the most precious time I spend, I think, is the time that I give to myself to be quiet. And it's interesting. I'm blessed to live with a man who's also very in touch. And he knows, he reminds me when I haven't been spending enough time in introspection. It's like, well, why don't you spend some time with that? It comes out. And if we have good friends, and if we have a coach holds us accountable to do that. And that's the brilliant thing about having a coach, is that it's someone to kind of keep your feet to the fire so that you don't run away from those things and get an opportunity to move forward.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to necessarily be big things too. Like I recently realized that what my body really wanted at a certain point was an apple. And for some reason, I wasn't giving myself an apple. I have apples in the fridge. And it was like, what is going on? Why am I denying myself this apple when I can feel this is what my body really wants right now. And so then I went, once I became aware of it, I went, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I went to the fridge and I got the apple and I ate it. It was fantastic. So, what was that about? I don't know. It doesn't, so, it's the little things to the big things. It's everything.
And that's true about everything in life, right? It can be the little things that make all the difference about whether or not we're really living fully.
Yeah.
I was blessed to do an exchange of one of my Shin sessions for a coaching session with an executive coach. And, she said, so what are you doing for yourself? I mean, I host nurture circles. I'm always encouraging women to take that time for themselves. But she could see that I was falling away from that self-care pattern myself, and that my giving was far outweighing my receiving. Again, falling back into old patterns. We do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
And having somebody to remind us of that is so brilliant. And like you said, something as little as, wow, my body really wants an apple, so have the apple. I really need a drink now. Well, I'll get a drink in a minute. I'll just finish this first. Why do we do those things to ourselves, Yeah. Just listen and take the action at the time that it's needed.
Yeah. The inspired action is a really important piece.
Agreed. Again, we're getting another big thank you. Awesome conversation, ladies. So it's wonderful to know that people are enjoying and getting value out of what we're sharing here. And it's about time that I should put on the screen here for our viewers, if they want to get a hold of you, Susan. Your website is www.awakening. Oops, I'm typing this in so it'll show up on the screen. Possibility.com. Possibility.com. Okay, let's see. How did we do? Show that up there. And awakening. Oops, only one S. We need two S's in that word, possibility. Okay, there it is. Awakeningpossibility.com. If people feel called to learn to listen to themselves more, if you're a woman who'd like to be involved in being with a group of women who are all in this path of honoring self, check out Susan's website, awakeningpossibility.com, and there'll be opportunities posted there for you to investigate. And again, Susan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life, your busy schedule, to be here on the show with me this morning. It means so much to get to share this important topic of and our parallel lives, just have an opportunity to share this again today. So I thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tina.
All right. Have a beautiful day, everyone. And the secret to having a beautiful day is creating that beautiful day. Fill it with love and kindness for yourself, and it will feel like a beautiful day. Thank you. Tune in next week when my guest, Joel Young, will be on the show. Oh, our first male presence. It will be exciting. Again, 9 a.m. Mountain, Wednesday morning. Tune in for Living from the Heart, live from the Shin page. Thank you, Susan. Love you so much.
All right. Mwah. Love you.
And till soon. Ciao for now.